Hi, everyone. I'm Rena Nine, and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Secretary of Defense James Mattis briefed the Senate today on the Saudi-led war in Yemen and the Trump administration's response to Saudi Arabia's killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Here's what Pompeo said when he was asked if he believed the Crown Prince ordered Khashoggi's death.
I do believe I've read every piece of intelligence, unless it's come in the last few hours. I think I've read it all. There is no direct reporting connecting the Crown Prince to the order to murder Jamal Khashoggi. And that's all I can say.
Republican Senator Bob Corker was one of many who attended Pompeo's briefing, and he didn't seem convinced by Pompeo's assessment.
We also have a Crown Prince that's out of control, a blockade in Qatar, the arrest of a prime minister in Lebanon, the killing of a journalist. And whether there's a smoking gun, I don't think there's anybody in the room that doesn't believe he was responsible for it. And just as Secretary Pompeo, if somebody at the State Department kills somebody, he's responsible for that. MBS has not taken ownership of the death. Whether he directed it or not, I think he did, but whether he did or not, it's his agency that killed this journalist, and they've taken no ownership of that.
CBS News chief congressional correspondent Nancy Pelosi joins us now from Capitol Hill. Nancy, CIA Director Gina Haspel was not allowed to attend the briefing. You asked Senator Bob Menendez why he thought the administration just didn't send her. Here's what he had to say to you.
Because Gina Haspel, if all of the accounts are true, would have said with a high degree of confidence that, in fact, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia was involved in the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, a United States permanent resident and a journalist.
Nancy, you asked Pompeo about this. What was his response, and how concerning was Haspel's absence for these lawmakers?
What the president is saying is not
they were very concerned, and in fact, they're still expressing their frustration now, Rena. I'll keep my voice down a bit for now because Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia is answering questions from reporters just a couple feet away from me. But basically, they all came out of this briefing with the Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense expressing great frustration that the CIA director, who would normally be there to brief them on a matter of this kind of sensitivity in which intelligence was so highly involved, U.S. intelligence, with no clear understanding, despite multiple questions to the Secretary of State about why Gina Haspel, the CIA director, was not asked to come here to talk to them as well. And they were left with the clear impression that the White House, as you heard Menendez say, didn't want her to be here because the CIA's conclusion that it appears quite likely that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia directed Khashoggi's killing is clearly not the line that we are hearing from the President of the United States. When I put that question to Secretary of State Pompeo, who, remember, is the former CIA director himself, came up here many times under similar situations to brief senators on sensitive matters, I asked him why Gina Haspel was not included, and all he could say was that he was asked to come, and so he did. I asked him again. He had the same answer.
So not going to touch it there. Nancy, you know, you talk about the administration's argument. We know that they've said that straining relations with Saudi Arabia isn't worth it at this point. They make the case that the U.S. needs the country to fight terrorism. It's not unlike what we heard from the Bush administration also after 9/11, that this was an important ally. But do lawmakers look at this differently? Do they buy this argument? And what are they saying right now at this point?
Well, you have, interestingly, a number of Republicans who did share the administration's view for a while, but who are growing increasingly frustrated by the line that they hear from the President of the United States. They argue, look, we can work with a strategic partner like Saudi Arabia and still assert our values around the world and condemn in the strongest terms the Crown Prince if we believe that he was responsible. And the fact that the White House isn't doing that is leading some of these Republicans to say, you know what, I might actually vote for a resolution that I opposed just a few months ago that would tie the administration administration's hands when it comes to helping Saudi Arabia in its war in Yemen, which, as we know, has created something of a humanitarian crisis. This is a resolution that failed, didn't get enough Republican support in particular just a few months ago, but now is coming back and could be voted on as early as this week, perhaps as early as today. We're still waiting to see, because there are some Republicans like Bob Corker, who is the chair of the Foreign Relations Committee, who says he voted no. Now he's thinking about voting yes because he thinks it's this important for the United States to send a message to the world that it will not tolerate the murder of a permanent U.S. resident in this fashion.
Nancy, I want to switch topics for a second. You've been covering the leadership votes for House Democrats today. It doesn't appear that Nancy Pelosi can clear today's hurdle to get her that bid for the speakership.
It does appear that she is going to be in a pretty comfortable position, at least heading into the big test, which comes a month from now on the House floor. Let me explain. So today what's happening is that all of the current and incoming Democratic members of Congress, about 235 of them, are voting by secret ballot behind closed doors to see who their next speaker will be come January, who really their entire slate of leadership will be. Well, Nancy Pelosi, despite dissatisfaction in some corners to her long leadership reign, is running unopposed. So the likelihood that she'll get knocked out is basically nil. But the real test comes in January when all of those members of Congress and Republicans as well will vote on the House floor. You have a small but significant number of House Democrats who said they will not support her. They won't support her behind closed doors. They won't support her on the House floor. And she has been working to sort of change those minds one by one, negotiate with them, see what their concerns are, see what it would take to turn them around, to get them to her side. And she has had some success. And if things continue in this fashion, she will be able to lock up the support she needs come January, especially because at the end of the day, even these Democrats, Rena, who might be frustrated with the fact that she's been in leadership for so long, who might feel that perhaps it's time for new blood, they don't want a Republican leading the House, and that's what would happen if she can't get the votes she needs on the House floor.
All right, we'll be watching. Nancy Cortez, thank you very much for joining us, Nancy.
You're welcome.